It all started as a regular night on Jimmy Kimmel Live, with a buzzing crowd and the promise of a lighthearted interview with action legend Sylvester Stallone. Known for his iconic roles in movies like Rocky and Rambo, Stallone stepped onto the stage with his usual charisma. But as the interview unfolded, viewers quickly noticed the tension in the room. Kimmel, famous for his sarcastic humor, took the banter too far this time. What began as playful teasing soon turned into pointed remarks that didn't sit well with the Hollywood star. The energy in the studio shifted rapidly. Kimmel opened the conversation with compliments. But within minutes, he pivoted to more controversial territory. He poked fun at Stallone's age and his decision to keep returning to action roles. "At what point do you finally hang up the gloves, Rocky?" Kimmel joked. The audience laughed, but Stallone didn't. His expression tightened. He gave a short chuckle, clearly forced, and leaned back in his seat. "I still have a few rounds left," he replied firmly, trying to brush it off. But Kimmel wasn't done. He pushed further, hinting that Stallone was clinging to relevance. The crowd, sensing the shift, grew quieter. Kimmel brought up Stallone's recent streaming deal, suggesting it was a desperate move to stay visible. "So now you're doing series and reality shows. What's next?" "TikTok boxing matches," Kimmel quipped. Stallone's face hardened. He stared directly at Kimmel. "You know, Jimmy," he said, "you think you're being funny, but you're just being disrespectful." The crowd let out an audible gasp. Kimmel tried to smile it off, but Stallone's tone was no longer casual. He wasn't playing along anymore. Stallone began to defend himself, talking about how hard he worked to create longevity in a brutal industry. He explained that doing different types of projects wasn't about desperation, but evolution. "Call it clinging eye. Call it adapting," he said sharply. Kimmel, sensing the pushback, tried to lighten the mood. "Hey, come on, Sly, I'm just busting your chops," he said, half laughing. But Stallone wasn't laughing. "No," he said, "you're not busting chops, you're trying to belittle a career that took decades to build." The studio now felt tense and awkward. Despite the growing discomfort, Kimmel didn't retreat. Instead, he brought up Stallone's family reality show and mocked it as keeping up with the Stallones. At that point, Stallone leaned forward, visibly irritated. "Why do you invite guests if you're just going to insult them on your show?" he asked. Kimmel stumbled a bit, mumbling something about comedy and satire. Stallone didn't let it. "Slide, you can make jokes without being nasty," he said. "You crossed the line." The audience was now silent, unsure of whether the moment was real or a planned bit gone too far. The conversation derailed completely when Kimmel brought up Stallone's past legal issues. "You've had a few bumps along the way, right?" he said with a smirk. That was the final straw. Stallone removed his microphone and stood up. "You want bumps?" he said. "How about I give your ratings a real bump by walking off right now?" The crowd erupted with a mixture of cheers and gasps. Kimmel, caught off guard, tried to salvage the situation. "Come on, we're just having fun," he insisted. But Stallone was already walking off stage, leaving his chair empty. Production staff rushed towards Stallone backstage, trying to calm him down and convince him to return. But he made it clear he was done. "I came here out of respect," he said, to a producer, not to be turned into a punchline. The clip of the walkout went viral within hours. Social media exploded with reactions. Hashtags like Stallone storms off and Kimmel Clash trended worldwide. Fans defended Stallone, saying he was right to stand up for himself. Others criticized Kimmel for pushing boundaries under the guise of comedy. The debate quickly turned heated. The next day, news outlets picked up the story with dramatic headlines. Some praised Stallone for defending his legacy and setting boundaries. Others questioned whether celebrities should be so sensitive during interviews. Talk shows across networks played the clip on repeat. Even other comedians weighed in. Some defended Kimmel's humor, but others admitted that his tone felt more mocking than playful. Stallone remained silent publicly, declining interviews for the next few days. He was letting the moment speak for itself, and it was speaking. Loudly, eventually, Stallone broke his silence through a carefully written statement on Instagram. "Respect is earned, not mocked," he wrote. "I've spent a lifetime building something from nothing. and won't allow anyone, host or not, to reduce that to a joke. The post garnered millions of likes and supportive comments. His words resonated with many fans and colleagues who had faced similar treatment in public forums. Without naming Kimmel directly, Stallone had made his point. He wasn't just a guest to be laughed at. He was a legend and demanded to be treated like one. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel addressed the controversy on his next show. He tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, insisting that his intent was never to offend. "I love Stallone," he said. "The guy's a hero. Maybe I pushed too far, but comedy's about risk, right?" Some in the audience applauded, but the mood was subdued. He then aired a clip of Stallone's earlier interviews with other hosts, where he was clearly more relaxed and respected. The contrast was evident, and Kimmel seemed to recognize that his style hadn't landed this time. The fallout continued. In entertainment circles, Stallone's team confirmed he would not be returning to the show under any circumstances. "We believe in promoting art, not hostility," his publicist said. Some Hollywood insiders speculated that other guests might now demand more respectful pre-interview guidelines before appearing on late-night programs. Stallone's moment wasn't just dramatic, it had real consequences. Behind the scenes, producers were rethinking how to balance edgy humor with guest dignity. No one wanted a repeat of that viral moment. As for Stallone, he returned to work almost immediately, diving into the production of his next series. Fans showed up in droves to support him at events. He remained professional and focused, avoiding further public remarks about the Kimmel incident. But in private circles, it was clear he felt deeply disrespected. "He crossed a line you don't cross," one friend quoted him saying. "You invite someone to talk, not to tear them down." The sentiment echoed throughout Hollywood. Respect, it seemed, was becoming fashionable again. Industry analysts noted that the event highlighted a changing attitude in entertainment. The era where comedians could mock without consequence was beginning to wane. More audiences wanted conversations, not ambushes. And Stallone, by walking off instead of lashing out, had set a powerful example. He didn't explode, he exited. That choice gave him the upper hand. Viewers remembered his dignity more than Kimmel's jokes. And the message was clear. Even legends have limits. And crossing them has a cost. Behind the scenes, ABC reportedly held meetings about the future direction of Jimmy Kimmel Live. While Kimmel wasn't in danger of cancellation, executives recognized the need for recalibration. The balance between comedy and cruelty had become too thin. They reviewed segments and reconsidered how far the show should push. Kimmel himself was said to be reflective, even admitting privately that the tone of the interview had gone sideways. But whether it was regret or damage control, it marked a rare moment of introspection for the show. Public opinion polls after the event showed something interesting. Stallone's popularity had surged, not just among older fans, but among younger viewers who admired his composure. He'd gone from being a retro action star to a symbol of self-respect. His movies saw a slight uptick in streaming views. Social media gained millions of new followers, all from one moment of choosing to walk away rather than stay in a toxic exchange. It was a lesson in image, perception, and the surprising power of silence. Some speculated whether this clash would turn into a long-term feud, but sources close to Stallone said he had no interest in dragging it out. He said what he needed to say by saying nothing, one friend noted. Meanwhile, Kimmel avoided further jokes about Stallone altogether. In later episodes, he even seemed more careful when interviewing other guests, occasionally adding disclaimers like, "I'm joking," or "all in good fun, promise." Clearly, the incident had left a mark not just on his show, but on his approach. Commentators drew comparisons to past celebrity walkouts, but noted that Stallone's was different. It wasn't impulsive or vulgar. It was calm, deliberate, and carried weight. It felt like a man who knew exactly who he was and refused to be reduced to a caricature. He didn't lose control, one critic wrote. He took control. Distinction made all the difference. Stallone wasn't trending because he shouted, he was trending because he stood his ground with grace. Something increasingly rare in the media world, Even rival hosts like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Fallon addressed the incident subtly, using it as a chance to reflect on their own hosting styles. "We love our guests," Colbert said in one episode. "They're not just content, they're people." It was a subtle jab at Kimmel, perhaps, but also a broader commentary on the direction of late-night television. Guests weren't just there to be laughed at, they were there to share and to be respected. Stallone's moment had redefined the rules of engagement on the couch. As time passed, the story faded from the headlines, but the impact lingered. Stallone's response had shifted the conversation about how media treats veteran actors and aging stars. He wasn't a relic, he was.